Damn, I have not made a video like this in forever. It's been so long since I did commentary videos. In fact, I had a video on my channel saying I'm not going to do this kind of thing again. But uh, seeing what's been happening recently, I think I really got to do something like this because I just got to get the word out. There's this person who's been talking a lot of mad shit about somebody. This person has been trying to portray them as a terrible person, even though this person in particular was in the wrong. This person's name is Sage, and he's been shit talking somebody very close to me, Hyrule. And it's really upsetting to see because, as I'll show in the video, Sage is very obviously in the wrong, and Hyrule is being nice as fuck to Sage, but Sage is still acting like Hyrule is a terrible person, even though out of all of the people involved, Hyrule was by far one of the nicest. So I think I really have to make a video about this to like really just expose Sage and like what that motherfucker's been doing. So I'll try to cover the information in this video in hopefully chronological order, and I'll make sure to censor out the names of anybody that isn't Hyrule or Sage. I will be showing a bunch of screenshots and later in the video a screen recording, but I will try to let you guys all read them instead because I can't really be bothered to read them like with my own voice. I'd rather just cover it and summarize everything up. So without further ado, let's get into the video, starting with part 1. So what I forgot to mention is Sage and Hyrule used to be dating, and at the beginning of this period, of course their relationship was pretty nice. You wouldn't really want to get in a relationship with somebody if you guys' relationship wasn't already nice. But very soon after, it started taking a turn for the worse. Sage started showing their true colors, and it was just not pretty. But it all started with Sage telling Hyrule they might have this condition called DID. Now, DID is also known as dissociative identity disorder, and it's where you have two or more personalities that control you at like different times. But one of the key things about DID is that anytime you switch between a personality, you probably don't remember it. And Sage violates that condition every single time they switch personality. You'll see that later in the video, but right now, let's just talk about this one screenshot in particular. On it already just like right off the bat just feels like they're treating it as like some sort of sexuality or something, which you're not supposed to do with a mental condition. Like instead of saying that they might have DID, they say that I may be plural, and that almost sounds like they are just treating it as a sexuality. But of course, they were in a relationship at the time, so Hyrule wanted to be very nice to Sage, and he was compared to everybody else that was in the situation that was involved. And that's again the reason I'm making this video. Hyrule was being way too nice to Sage for Sage to just shit talk Hyrule like on the main and the privates and stuff. And at one point, this started getting so out of hand because, well, Sage is treating this thing as a sexuality, and Sage hasn't gotten diagnosed for it, is trying to self-diagnose, as you'll see in a bit. And Hyrule reaches out to one of his friends, and apparently in the making of this video, Hyrule has told me that three in specific do not care about their names being censored or not. So this is Hyrule talking to his friend Connor about it, and as you can see in this conversation, Sage is a bit of a hypocrite and does not stick to their word. Sage said that they're not going to self-diagnose and then proceeds to just do that.
Hey there, this is Comical, and you're going to see me later in the video, but I just wanted to chime in for a minute to explain more about DID and what it actually looks like. Before I begin, I am of course not a licensed psychologist, nor studying psychology to any degree, and I'm simply going off of just general information that anybody can find online. DID is a very controversial diagnosis and is largely misunderstood as a mental illness, but I do just want to present the unbiased facts and show you how they apply to Sage, in order to help you understand the sort of image we've built around Sage these past few months. With DID being an unusual and complicated condition, not everything will be fully explained and some traits may not apply to all individuals, but by the end of the video you'll understand why we believe Sage has been faking their condition. Dissociative identity disorder is a mental health condition that elicits multiple unique personalities within one individual. These personalities act as separate, distinct people, and they are referred to as alters. Something called co-fronting does exist, where two or more alters are in control to varying degrees at the same time, but typically there will only be one fronting at a given time. You can have just two alters, you can have tens, and you can even have hundreds. It is also possible for alters to interact and switch on their own will, although this is not an easy task. There are a variety of emotional triggers that cause switching, and it is usually through these that switching actually takes place. Just so we're clear, the host is the personality most prevalent within an individual, and a group of alters is known as a system. It is also quite difficult for alters to be fully aware of each other's actions while they are fronting, and a critical criterion for DID is inconsistencies in memory and amnesia between switches. Of course, this makes their condition less than ideal, and with so many personalities locked within a host, some of them may inevitably be in disagreement with each other and can be damaging to a system. DID is typically developed through childhood as a result of long-term neglect, abuse, or trauma, and it is rarely diagnosed in those under the age of 18. Throughout this video, you will see how Sage relentlessly abuses the concept of this condition, and how they treat it more like an escape than a mental illness, as if it's a convenience for them. Sage frequently uses their proclaimed alters to escape responsibility and say and do things they otherwise wouldn't be able to get out of scot-free, and it is damaging to other people who may not be aware of DID to let a person like this roam freely on the internet, needlessly hurting those who may not be informed on what this condition really is. That's all from me.
And DID is such a complex thing that it really is a bad idea to self-diagnose this kind of stuff. I mean, even stuff like autism is something you shouldn't self-diagnose. But yeah, as you can see, Sage is starting to really show their true colors by not sticking to their word and doing the exact opposite of what they said they would do. And it gets even worse because at one point, Sage, in a Discord call, decided to screen share fucking porn and then decided to use their DID as an excuse, saying that one of their personalities, quote unquote, crept in. I don't think that's how it works. Again, you're not supposed to know or remember when your personality switch. Like, it's like they're using DID as an excuse for their actions, and it doesn't even seem like they actually have it, like, according to what you've just seen. Like, I used to use my autism, and I've been diagnosed, by the way. Don't talk to me about that. I use it as an excuse when I was younger, but I was like 10 years old back then. Sage is almost 18 at this point. So Hyrule decides to ask Tanushi, who is one of Hyrule's friends and one of my friends as well, whether or not Hyrule is being rude for trying to tell Sage to keep it on the low and not to self-diagnose, not to make a big deal out of it. And uh, of course, Tanushi, being reasonable, said that Hyrule wasn't in the wrong for feeling like this. Because if it was me, I would have just told Hyrule to outright deny that shit. Like, it just feels so like fake. And in this Discord screenshot, you can see that Hyrule brings up that one Discord call where Sage claims that one of their personalities has quote unquote crept in, even though that's not supposed to be how that kind of stuff works. Uh, One of their personalities, quote unquote, crept in to fucking screen share porn. Um, okay, yeah. Like, there is really no excuse for that kind of stuff. Just, like, own up to it and say it was your fault. Like, because it obviously was. Again, doing bad stuff like that and blaming it on, like, your condition is something kids do. So all of these images were taken from Hyrule's doc. Thank you, Hyrule, again for making it so easy to make the video because Hyrule organizes very well. These light texts before the messages just show what was inside the voice messages. summarizing them in context. And in this new conversation with Connor brings up the fact that Sage is trying to talk behind Hyrule's back, which is really not cool. Like when you're in a relationship with somebody, you should just talk directly to them if you have an issue with them, not really talk behind their back like this. Um, I made that mistake before. I deeply regret it, but Sage, you're almost 18 now. You should mature and realize that this kind of stuff is not cool. And yeah, you might be thinking like, wait, what? Isn't Hyrule just talking behind Sage's back the whole time? Well, not really, because Hyrule brings up every single point to Sage's face. In fact, Hyrule confronts Sage about all of this later in the video, and it does not end well. And these screenshots of the voice recordings and the transcription of the voice recordings just reinforces the fact that nobody is really falling for Sage's bullshit. And again, this whole thing about Sage's personality slipping through and screen sharing porn to a GC doesn't make any sense, because if your personalities are changing, you're not supposed to know about them. You're not supposed to uh, know that they're changing at one point, because the whole condition that has to be met is that you experience amnesia between personality switches. So the fact that one of your personalities, quote unquote, slipped in and you somehow knew about this is very, very suspicious. But this whole thing has just been between Hyrule and his friends. But Hyrule has talked to some other people about this, and this is the part where it starts to escalate quite a bit. So let's move on to part two, where Hyrule talks to more than just his friends. Now, at this point, Hyrule is getting close to the part where he really confronts Sage about all this stuff. And this is also the part where Sage does more hypocritical things. This is just another convo about how it's just really suspicious what Sage is doing, because, again, uh, you just don't get that kind of diagnosis overnight. Like, you don't just wake up suddenly and you think you have DID. That's just not how it works. But this is the point where Sage starts to get upset towards Connor, because Connor is going through a rough time, and because of this, Sage is claiming that they're getting close to snapping at them, which is very hypocritical, because Sage has also been venting a lot to Hyrule, but Hyrule has never complained once about it. But Sage is over here complaining that they can't help Connor or something, and they're getting close to snapping at them, which is, like, again, very hypocritical, because if Sage treated Sage the way Sage treats Connor, then Sage would probably snap at Sage. If you don't believe me, here's the proof. This is the context, and here's the screenshots. Uh, Again, Sage is saying that they're about to snap at Connor, even though Connor is just venting about things. Hyrule is calling out Sage on their bullshit. And Connor and Hyrule, being reasonable, they agree with each other that it's just very hypocritical, and it's just the nonsensical that Sage is getting upset that somebody is venting too much while they're venting too much. There's another situation in which Sage knew a person on Twitter who kept unadding them for some reason. Sage then decided to DM that person on Discord. It does not seem like that person was doing very well mentally, and Sage, instead of being a good person and just saying like, "Oh well, I guess they just don't feel well," they said that that person was being, quote unquote, rude to them. That's just narcissistic as hell. Like, come on, you gotta understand their feelings. Like, who knows? What if they're depressed or something? Like, you can't just be going around doing stuff like that. That's crazy. And it just feels weird that Sage is only venting to Hyrule once Hyrule goes to sleep, which is just very annoying. Please do it while Hyrule's awake. And apparently, they have developed a new altar literally overnight, and probably already know everything about this altar, which is also a thing that's not supposed to happen because when you have a new altar, you're not supposed to know very much about it at first. And I know the crazy part? Their new altar is based off of a pre existing character. It's kind of suspicious that your altars are naming themselves after Wings of Fire characters, and I'll show you how many are named after pre existing characters later in the video. It's hilarious. This is quite off topic, but this is another screenshot showing that Sage is just really not a person of their word because, like as you can see, they say something and they don't do it. Like last second changes are like legit so annoying. This is like a very off topic rant, but I used to have a piano teacher who would make me just suddenly take part in an event that's like very far away and very time consuming, and it was just not fun. So yeah, but that's the end of my very short rant. Let's just keep going. Now, this is by far the most damning evidence that Sage is faking their DID. Um, you're not supposed to be able to tell any of your personalities to quote unquote take over. You can't do that. You're not supposed to be in control of it if you actually have DID. And that whole lesbian part, it just doesn't make sense. And the fact that uh, they're saying the personality is lesbian kind of makes me feel like Hyrule is being cheated on. Because if the personality is a woman and is dating Zephyr, then it should be straight. But that just doesn't make any sense. Like that's okay, yeah. I don't think you know how this works, Sage. Now at this point, Comical jumps in with a very reasonable response. Uh, by far the most reasonable response. You're not supposed to self-diagnose. It just does not feel right. It's completely fake. And yeah, I 100% agree with Comical. Shout out my boy Comical. We're also friends in the same server Hyrule's in, and uh, Comical was just so fucking real for this. Now at this point, also Hyrule reaches out to another person who has actually studied psychology, and here's what they all had to say. So this is the first text. Hyrule just explains absolutely everything in detail. Y'all should pause the video to just read all of this. It's quite a lot. Then they proceed to say that they really cannot be self-diagnosing when it comes to DID. It's really just too complicated to do something like that. You can just look something up and say, "Hey, that's kind of like me," and the whole conversation is very, very long. But in these two screenshots, this person just simply explains that what Sage has just does not seem like DID. And later in the conversation, uh, they just touch on how Sage is, not a great partner. But yeah, we have an actual educated opinion this time with somebody who actually has studied some psychology, studied DID a little bit. So now we can really just confirm that Sage is 100% faking this. They feel like one of those TikTok self-diagnosers, and they really should have just gotten an expert to diagnose them. But uh, they said they're waiting until they're 18 to get that diagnosis. But they really shouldn't be saying anything before that, which they did. So, yeah, that's stupid as hell. But now that we got an educated opinion on this, now we can move on to part 3, where Hyrule actually confronts Sage. Now, at this point, Hyrule gets fed up with Sage's bullshit and gets Sage and a bunch of his friends into a group chat to talk about everything that's been happening. Hyrule was kind enough to make a huge screen recording uh, showing all of the messages between Sage and the group chat. You will see this screen recording right now. I will commentate over it. So they get in a group chat, and Hyrule sends his massive message about his issues with Sage, Sage's hypocrisy, Sage's faking of their DID, and Hyrule is being very nice about this, saying they're worried for Sage. Personally, I think Hyrule should have been a lot more rude about it, saying "fuck you" or something. But that's just me. As you can see, they're being very, very nice about this. Sage is, of course, agreeing to this, although you will see later that Sage uh, was not saying how he actually felt about this. But, you see the text, they're being nice, but they're being real about it. They're being honest about their feelings. They're saying, you can't really be self diagnosing like this. It just doesn't feel real. Hyrule is saying his real feelings, saying that just it doesn't add up very well, and so is everybody else. And Sage is finally admitting that they have been using this DID thing as a just excuse for their actions, and I'm very sure that Sage is just not actually meaning any of this. They're just saying this to make everybody think that they actually hold themselves accountable for their actions, but they really aren't. And Sage is just saying a whole bunch of bullshit about how you don't need DID to be a system, even though that's just not how it works. You kind of have to have both at the same time because they're the same thing, and Comical uh, properly talks about that, properly says that it just does not make sense what Sage is saying. And Sage is also claiming that you don't need to have amnesia between switches, even though you literally do. Every single person with DID is supposedly having amnesia between switches. So, since Sage does not really fulfill that criteria, Comical is calling Sage out on that, as Comical should. And Connor comes in saying that he's known Sage for a whole year and only now these symptoms have been popping up. And that's not how it should be working because DID should be developed over like a very long period of time, especially from early childhood. But he's known Sage for a year and Sage has not shown a single symptom until now. And what's hilarious is Sage, instead of sending a message in a chat, they instead put it on a note for some reason and then send the message in the chat. That's really weird. Like, just send the message to the chat, for real. Like, what? And Sage is just trying to, over and over again, to claim that they actually have DID, like, by just throwing reason after reason that don't actually work because none of those reasons are actually good enough evidence to claim you have DID. Like, just say that you were just saying it the whole time. Be for real. Like, Sage just keeps claiming that they have DID, but in my opinion, no, they DI didn't. Like, I'm just so tired of these guys just have claiming they have uh, like mental things when they do not, just doing it to clout chase. Like these TikTok self-diagnosing cloud chasers have really just made an everlasting and bad impact on society, making people like Sage feel like they can just self-diagnose a complex mental condition, making people like Sage feel like they can just fake a mental condition and just get away with it, get all the clout from it, and have no repercussions for just faking this bullshit. Sage claiming that their research was not half-assed is just completely wrong because I am quite sure Sage just looked at the first page he saw on the internet saying what DID was, the symptoms are, and just ran with that because they clearly do not understand that you're supposed to have amnesia, you're not supposed to know much about a new alter or whatever. They clearly did not know all that, and they just decided to self diagnose themselves with just like one random article, or maybe they're just intentionally faking it, either one. Let this be a lesson to all. Just never self diagnose. Like, just go to a doctor, have them check you up, and if they say that you have the condition, you probably do because they're the experts, but you're not. You don't know better than medical professionals who have been to college for this kind of stuff. And of course, at this point, Sage is starting to uh, send a lot shorter messages, talking very dryly, because it's clear that they feel that they're in the right and they're just calling Sage out for pretty much nothing in Sage's eyes. I mean, again, Sage is always right. And Sage is claiming that Zeph's relationship means a lot to them, when it clearly doesn't, considering Sage constantly talked behind Zephyr's back. Zephyr is Hyrule, by the way, I forgot to mention that, but Sage made plans with Hyrule and stuff, and then didn't follow through with them and left Hyrule hanging. Like one time, Sage said they wanted to do something with Hyrule. Then, once Hyrule is ready, Sage apparently had a vacation trip that they never told Hyrule about. So, how much does this really mean? And to push the point further that Sage does not like to take accountability for their wrong actions, uh, you notice how at the end of the video they said that they were understanding that Hyrule doesn't want to talk anymore? Well, guess what Sage sent like right after? You mentioning the porn thing in the GC really upset me. It made me uncomfortable. I understand why you did it, but it made me uncomfortable. Like, oh my fucking god. You don't understand how uncomfortable that stuff probably made everybody else. Like, you should be able to take this because you should be able to hold yourself accountable that it was wrong. You should be ashamed, not uncomfortable. Like, if this was like a normal VC in a normal server that wasn't like super nice to you, they would have banned you from the server. Like, you would just have no chance after doing something like that. Like, with normal people, they would ban you, they would shit talk you, they might even post it online. So don't be like talking about how, oh, I'm so upset with Hyrule being nice to me about it, just bringing it up in the GC, say that it was wrong. Because everybody else that would probably not be as nice would just like murder you for this. Like, that's not cool. You should not be doing that kind of thing. But after all of this comes the aftermath. Of course, Sage and Hyrule eventually break up for a very good reason, because Sage is an asshole. And now it leads us to our final part of the video, the aftermath. You know how I said Sage is not going to hold themselves accountable, and they weren't really meeting what they said in the GC. They're not really holding themselves accountable for just claiming full on that they had a condition when they don't. Well, guess what? Immediately after this conversation, Sage just goes back to pretending to have DID, just like getting a new alter that's another pre-existing character from a fucking book, just really not owning up to it at all and showing that the GC meant nothing to them. At this point, Sage and Hyrule finally break up for the better, especially for Hyrule because Hyrule no longer has to deal with all of this. And of course, Sage just decides to, like, soon after show that Hyrule meant nothing to Sage. So let's just go over the last few screenshots that Hyrule has given me. This is Sage whining about somebody randomly blocking them, and this is them talking to Hyrule about it. Like, come on, just let them block you. You probably didn't even know them that well. Like, if you know somebody very well on Twitter and they suddenly block you, that's a much different story. But this person probably does not know Sage very well, so you should not be going into their DMs and being pushy about it. Like, come on, please, just be like chill for once, and just let them block you. Like, it's the internet, bro. Chill out. Hyrule hits Sage with yet again another dose of reality, and then Sage, of course, just pretends that they agree with everything by saying, "That's fair," which I forgot to mention. Sage just says that's fair over like literally everything. Anytime Sage just gets confronted about something, they just say that's fair, even though they clearly disagree with it. Yeah. And you'd think this is the end, but Sage starts turning a lot of Hyrule's mutuals against him, which is really fucked up, considering Hyrule was the one that was in the right the whole time. And I am not even going to like think about like the two sides to perspectives kind of thing. Sage was clearly in the fucking wrong. It's so fucked up that Sage is just turning people against Hyrule. Like, that's not cool at all. That's so fucked up. just acknowledge you were wrong, please. For once in your life, just acknowledge your mistakes for fucking once. And hopefully, this video gives Sage some karma, turning people against them instead, because that would be really great, because they fucking deserve it. So, Hyrule got fed up with this, of course, because this is just complete bullshit. And he decides to get Sage into another GC to talk about all this. So, he does that, and here is the screenshot. So apparently, Sage was not only not taking accountability for their actions, but they also decide to blame it on Hyrule. Quotes retweeting a tweet that says, "People will literally put you through hell and then act like you're the problem because of how you react to what they've done to you." And Sage quote retweets this by saying that Hyrule did that to them, and then they decided to also be shit talking on their private as well. I mean, let's look at this. Look at what Sage has been saying. They've been saying that they didn't want to chase Hyrule, and that Hyrule was telling Sage that they were something that they weren't. But that's just bullshit. We've all seen that Sage clearly just does not have the symptoms. Sage is just faking this whole DID shit, and then Sage just tries to back up by saying that they weren't talking about Hyrule when it was so obvious that they probably were. Like, they're just saying that, like, oh, I just worded it poorly. I was talking about my first ex or whatever. But come on, you were clearly just trying to backpedal your scroll dingers douchebags, and like by talking all this shit and then claiming you weren't talking all that shit the moment you get called out for it. Like, what the fuck? They're saying it's like bad wording or something, but like clearly they're just expressing that they are hurt somehow when Hire was being super nice about the situation, when Sage was faking all this DID bullshit. So yeah, I don't believe a single word, especially considering how untrustworthy Sage has been. It's just all 100% bullshit, and yeah, Sage is just trying to be a douchebag at this point. And to top it all off, we have one final message from Sage themselves. Fuck you, you creepy, prying, disgusting psychopath. Stay out of my life. Posted on their main as well. Yeah, what a very great way to say that they just clearly do not take any accountability for their actions, and they still think they're in the right somehow. And that finally ends it. That's the end of the Sage saga. Maybe they're talking even more shit on their private or something. None of us have access to their private anymore since Optic trolled Sage a little too hard and no longer has the access. And remember when I mentioned that Sage's alters are mostly pre-made characters? Well, here's the proof for that. Somebody posted Sage's entire list of alters, and 9 of them are Wings of Fire characters, and 3 of them are Wings of Fire OCs. So 12 of those motherfucking altars are named after pre-existing characters. That's just so wild. Anyways, me and Hyrule have also decided to include an interview. Me and Hyrule will do an interview with Comical and another friend of mine, so we can get perspective from a normal person. So yeah, here is the interview. All right, what's up, Hyrule?
Hi.
All right, so starting off the interview, I guess, just like a conversation started because I don't have really much in mind. Uh, so when did like Sage start like showing red flags?
Pretty much only after they told me that they think they're a system, because there was like no signs of it at all before then that anyone noticed.
Mm-hmm.
They claim that there were signs, but literally no one noticed any of them, if there were any, which is why I kind of don't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think at least I would have been able to pick up on one,
Mm-hmm.
but there was like nothing at all. And they all kind of just started happening immediately after that day.
Mm-hmm. Hold on, let me just check something real quick. Okay, my mic works. Never mind. All right, sorry.
Good.
Keep going.
I'm trying to think of what else I could say about that. Cause like,
Because like as Comical said, like there was no science like period before that, so like it just makes no sense because that's this
Yeah.
thing is supposed to develop over a very long time. It's not just supposed to
Hmm.
randomly just pop up out of nowhere. Like if like Sage didn't have it like already, then like they won't have it. Period.
Yeah, and I don't, because they claimed that the signs were there, but they were like, I just dropped something. Sorry.
It sounded like you
They
were
claimed
cooking up a gun.
it did it did about to shoot someone, and
Real.
but yeah, they claimed that they were like heavily masking it until they were open about it, and then they said, quote unquote, everything just kind of fell into place. But I don't think it works like that. I don't think DID is something you can really mask.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, what? How do you mask that? Like,
Yeah, and especially to the point where no one notices at all. Because
exactly.
like I would have been able to pick up on like personality differences or like typing differences like I've seen with them in the past.
Hmm.
But like I think the only real like sign was that they would be depressed like almost every night.
Oh,
Like that, but I don't even think that's a DID thing. I think that's its own issue. Like
yeah. It's like a completely different thing. Like, what? That's like you can't attribute that to the ID. What the hell?
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Got anything else to say about this like little
Off
situation?
of that question, not that I can think of.
So has Sage ever made you uncomfortable during the thing? That's question number two.
Like during what specifically?
Like the time you guys like were together.
Well, I mean, there was one time that I specifically said to them that there was a fetish that I don't have any interest in, so please don't bring it up around me because it's like makes me uncomfortable. And they tried to respect that, but then when we were playing a game with their friend one time, a prompt came up because it's like one of those prompt games, and
Hmm.
their friend made it like that, and they didn't say anything about it. They just kind of let it happen.
Oh,
Other
dang.
than that, I don't really know if
Oh,
they've like specifically made me uncomfy in that way. There's obviously been times where like they've upset me, but there weren't. I don't know how many. At least that I can remember times that they made me like specifically uncomfortable like that.
oh, okay.
Unless it was like talking about the DID thing, because obviously I had my own thoughts on that, but didn't
Yeah.
want to say anything.
Hmm. Like you're being
'Cause,
nice as hell, by the way. Like I don't know how they can
yeah,
like say that stuff about you. But, like,
yeah, I kept to myself with them a lot toward the end.
hmm. Ooh, I have another question. Have you seen any of their have you seen any messages or any people DMing you that like Sage has been saying this kind of stuff, like old friends that Sage told, and they confronted you saying that like you're a bad person or something because Sage told them this about you or whatever.
I wouldn't say old friends, but Connor and Optic specifically, uh, like they're the ones that kind of showed me what some of the things they said. Other than that, pretty much any other mutual we had just decided to side with Sage without even seeing what happened. They just unadded me or blocked me or something like that.
Oh,
Which thankfully I was never close to any of them, so I don't really give a fuck. But like,
they like shit talk you on their tweet like social media accounts or something? Like, I mean, your old friends not Sage themselves. I know they did, but
yeah, I don't think I wouldn't know if any of them did
hmm.
because one of them, I think only one of them I still follow, and I don't even remember their tag anymore.
Ow.
But so if they posted anything, I did not see it. The only thing I would think of is maybe that was said in DMs, which is entirely possible because I had one friend that sided with Sage, and normally I would just not say anything, but when I saw they unadded me, I actually DM'd them saying, "Well, bye then," just to at least leave off on some kind of note, and they claimed that it was because they lost interest,
Were you guys
which
close?
I wouldn't say we were close. We were definitely friends, but we weren't like the closest. We didn't talk every day. But we did talk, and we even had a group chat, which I left after the whole Sage thing, and we were still friends for a little bit. And then, like I said, that one day they unadded me and claimed they lost interest, which was like I don't buy that one bit. But
Yeah, I don't buy it either. They just say stuff to say stuff for real. Anyways, I should probably ask another question about Sage.
yeah, I can add one little detail about the last question real quick,
Uh huh.
because me, Connor, and Sage had a friend group with two other people, and after the Sage incident, because one of the friends there apparently knew stuff about DID, but when Sage, quote unquote, came out as one, they didn't. They were just like validating all of it, and so me and Connor did not talk to them about it at all. And then after the whole Sage like debacle, they asked me what happened, and I explained to them, and they proceeded to not even reply, and then like 2 days later leave my Discord server and unadd me. To which I literally called them out and then left the server because I was just like, okay, if you're just gonna pick sides like that, fuck off. Like,
Exactly. Like, that's such a stupid side to pick too. Like, you saw all the evidence that Sage clearly does not have DID and they're faking it. But like,
mhm.
yeah, that's just messed
And
up.
this is the and like you don't necessarily include this sentence, but this is the same person that when Sage got a new boyfriend, they replied to the tweet with "I manifested this," which is kind of funny to me. I don't know why.
Who manifested? Wait, is this Rogue Cobalt?
Well, it's about them, but no, it's that I think their tags is that trans dino or something. I don't remember.
Oh, I'll check it out later. That's funny as hell
You'll
though.
probably be able to find it pretty quickly.
Anyways, another question is: Did Sage do anything bad to any of your friends? Like, the cool guys in the server.
Not that I can really think of. There was like obviously like the only I guess bad thing that I could think of that they did was toward me, and that was trying to talk to me or talk to Connor about me behind my back,
Hmm.
which you obviously saw.
Yep,
I
I
don't.
put it in the video.
Yeah, I don't know if. I think did they do? Because like I mean, they would make promises that they'd call a lot and then like not remember that they were busy that day or like not communicate anything, so they'd end up never following through with it. And they did that to me a lot too, but they did that to like Connor, for example, where they'd be like, "Oh, let's call in like 2 hours," and like, they didn't and would not say why.
Yeah, like
And they did that a lot.
if you're going to do that, explain. Like, there always needs to be an
Yeah.
explanation for something. I hate when people just do stuff and just don't explain it. Ew.
Uh huh.
Like, if they're not explaining something, that's probably like a sign of guilt.
Yeah, like I don't they had like very bad communication issues.
Yeah.
That's probably the worst. Not in terms of the DID thing. That's probably like the most dickish thing they did outside of
Yeah, I mean,
obviously talking about me behind my back.
mhm. It's like one thing to not have a. I mean, it's one thing to be communicating poorly, like I do, like most of the time, because I stutter and I take back my words a lot, to put new words in. But like, it's another thing to not communicate at all. Like, what?
Yeah, and the difference is you at least try to communicate. They like don't at all.
Yeah,
And they're like, I want to try and get better at that, but they just don't. Like, we would have made plans to do something, and I would be looking forward to it either all day or for like a few hours.
hmm
And like this was a big issue where I would like literally just like not do anything until they were ready, and half the time I just end up doing nothing the rest of the night because of that,
oh,
because they would not tell me that they couldn't, or they would just full on forget. And it was like I could have spent that time in like a voice chat or something instead.
exactly. Like, they're just wasting your time at that point if they're just not gonna follow through anything.
Hmm.
Like at least let like them know ahead of time before you do something like that. And if you forget, just apologize. But they never did that, right?
I mean, I think they'd try to apologize,
Hmm.
but like it was annoying when they'd apologize for it and then keep doing it over and over again.
Oh, Sage is doing that. Just does that so many times. They're like, I shouldn't have like just went for a full-on DID, what diagnosis, self-diagnosis, and then proceeds to just do it right after you
Yeah.
confronted them. That's just 100% wild. Oh, I should have asked this question, but how did you guys get together? Like at the start?
Like, how did we meet, or just how we got together?
Yeah, that the second question.
Well, it wasn't like some crazy story, because pretty much, because we met on Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
because we both liked the same things, and we became mutuals. We added each other in Discord, and they invited me to a few servers they were in, and I interacted with them a little bit there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I joined a voice call one night, and then I think a week later we joined another. And in that second one, it was just the two of us. And then around that time, they let me on their private, and they were talking about. Shut the fuck up, dog!
Oh, the interview is wild. But keep
They've
going.
been bothering me all day.
I understand. Real.
But yeah, they let me on their private around that time, and they were talking about having a crush. And I was like, oh, it's probably just at school or something. But I had this like gut feeling it was me for some reason. I like never get that feeling, but I had it that time.
Mm.
I didn't think anything of it though. And then like a week or two later, they asked me, like they said they had a crush on me, and at first I wasn't sure because like at that point I'd never been in a relationship before, and I didn't know how I felt about them. And I thought on it overnight, and the next day I was like, okay, I'll give it a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And then it started from there.
And then it got
And we
back
took
like,
it.
in 2 days.
I wouldn't necessarily say in 2 days, but the promises that never fell through was pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously the DID shit was toward the end. So
Oh, maybe just what did you and Sage like plan to do? Like, they made.
well,
Oh, sorry.
no, you're good. Like 90% of the time, it was role plays,
Oh,
and then I'd say the rest was like either a game or like watching a movie together.
oh,
Because there was the one time, because this is probably the worst case of this. There was the one time me, them, and Connor, all planned. Yeah, there was the time that we all planned to watch a movie,
mm-hmm.
and I told them like, "Oh, I'll be on in like 2 hours or something," and they were like, "Oh, okay, we'll wait."
Mm-hmm.
And then like 2 hours later, I see them talking about like the ending of the movie, and I asked them, "Did you watch it?" And they said, "Yeah." And then I was like, "Oh, so they watched it without me."
That's messed up. Okay, like they plan to do something like big like that. That's like it's like nice bonding thing, and they just just forget about you somehow. Okay, so they're clearly all they're talking about like a thing meaning a lot to you. Just clearly was just not right. Like,
And then like, because Connor was there, and Connor asked like, "Shouldn't we wait for Zephyr, or like, is he fine or something?" And I think they, like Connor says, they said something like, "Oh no, it's fine" or something.
oh my
I don't remember,
god.
but you probably ask Connor about that. But
I mean, I don't.
yeah, Connor double checked, and Sage still watched it without me.
Dang. Okay, now that's just 100% messed up. That's just being bad. That's not even like negligent or something. That's just pure wrong. It's like no excuse for that. That's just oh my god. With a
Yeah.
warning too by Connor. Jesus Christ.
Uh-huh. And like the thing that like kind of rubbed it in more is when I told them about how I felt after that. They were like, "Oh, I'm sorry. We'll watch it like tomorrow, just the two of us." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Didn't happen.
Oh.
They forgot. And then I think the next day or the day after that, I don't remember. Like regardless, sometime within the next few days after that, they didn't tell me that they were going out of state for a whole week until the day they left.
That is something you like you gotta tell people about. Like, oh my god, what?
Yeah. So something that I should have been only waiting like a day for, and then ended up waiting almost 2 weeks for like a week and a half,
Mhm.
something like that, which was like annoying.
Yeah. Did they at least watch the movie eventually? like with you.
Yeah, we watched it when they came back, but I still shouldn't have had to wait that long.
Yeah, like exactly. Oh my god.
And I think we only watched it because I reminded them.
Yeah,
And, like my friend said that like if you truly love them, that's like the first thing on your mind.
exactly. Like you make a plan with somebody like that, and then you just follow through with it. Like, and if you can't, for some weird reason, you explain why beforehand. But like when it comes to this, like
Mm-hmm.
this is also like again unexcusable because Connor reminded them of that. Should have
Yeah.
like, and they was like, oh, don't worry, it's just yeah, but it's a big problem. Like, why would that's so messed up to me? Like, I just can't comprehend why somebody would do that.
I can't either.
Yeah,
I can't either.
like oh yeah, Satan was terrible. Jesus Christ. Oh, oh, this is another question. Do you think Sage actually had an ex before this, or is this their first relationship?
They told me they did,
Oh, okay.
and I haven't interacted with them, but I have seen others interact with them, and I know their name.
Oh, who?
And like I don't think Sage ever went into detail about what they did. I think the only thing I heard was that they cheated on them or something, but I don't even know if that's true,
I mean, Sage probably did
like
it.
at all. Who
Sage
knows?
was probably the one.
Mhm. Like definitely gives me the impression that they clearly just want someone to like cling to and have cling to them because according to Connor, when they broke up with that person, it was almost immediately after that they got with me or
Oh,
something like that.
bird be like.
Because I only knew Sage for like 2 weeks before they asked me, so
Oh,
I didn't know anything before that,
yeah, that's the thing.
and they never told me.
Yeah, I take it a lot slower than that. Like, oh my god.
Yeah,
And and then Sage just suddenly decided they wanted to have DID. I'm assuming that's probably like some manipulation tactic that obviously failed.
it seems like it because me and Connor both made the point that like it seems like they will claim to have anything just for attention, and we don't know if they're doing that for attention. But it seems like every time the attention settles down with them and they've like forgotten about their new discovery about themselves, they just claim to have another thing, which is like
Yeah, that's just
a
not.
little much.
Yeah, that's just messed up beyond belief.
Because they would like publicly change their pronouns like once a week. They claimed to obviously have DAD. They talked about possibly being trans or something. They talked about uh, like what they were into quite often, stuff like that. I think there's
TikToker.
more examples, but yeah, off the top of my head, that's what I can think about. But it seemed like there was a new thing with them like every other week.
Hmm. And and then I guess just last question off the top of my head, but like like how many of their alters are like? I know I said it in the VC already. Like I mean in the video I said it. Oh, I
Yeah,
haven't posted the second part of the video yet, but I did talk about like how like said that like 12 of their alters are like premium characters. Is it like actually 12, or do they have even more with like pre-made characters?
well, I have not interacted with them at all, and I have them blocked. So if they have more, I don't know it. But as of the last time I interacted with them and seen, I think it was at least 12. Yeah, because
Oh,
I counted the other day, and that's including their OCs. Because I think it's 9 without their OCs, but 3 are Wings of Fire OCs. So if you count those, then they have 12.
that's actually hilarious. Hey, how many do they have any alters that aren't based off of characters?
I think 2,
Oh, wild.
because they have their persona. Actually, no, 3. Because they have their persona. They have one of their other. Is it 4? I don't know. 3 or 4. They have two. They have 2 OCs. Their persona and then themselves, which is kind of like yeah. And then they claim that Turtle's the host now, which like I don't think you can transfer host privileges. Because Sage was obviously the host of all their alters, but then like 2 weeks in, they said like, "Oh, Turtle's the host," and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't think that's how that works."
Yeah. Yeah. What good research they did, huh?
Hmm.
Good research.
And that's what annoys me is they claimed that our research was like flawed, or that we didn't do enough. But with what they're doing, it seems like they did maybe at most 2 Google searches and then claimed they had it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I claimed it was like one Google search. Like
Like,
first page, click on the link. That's I have the ID now.
pretty much. Like, it's just like annoying.
Yeah. Well, I think those are my last questions. You got like anything like else? Like any final like thoughts?
Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think that they mean the worst. I don't think they have like malicious intent with anything, and I don't want to claim that they are 100% faking everything, or that they're like trying to like manipulate everyone for pity. But I definitely feel like whether they realize it or not, they are kind of begging for attention and not taking it seriously enough, and they're definitely jumping the gun on a lot of their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they also aren't necessarily considering how others might feel, because they didn't really think about how I might have felt with a lot of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm just taking things weird, but I don't know. They definitely seemed like they wanted to be, I wouldn't say special, but they definitely wanted to be unique.
Oh, you're not weird at all
Or
for
like,
thinking that. Like that's like exactly what it is. That's like, you're like spot on. Also, sorry for interrupting. What were you gonna say?
oh, you're good. I was just gonna say, yeah, because not only would they like try and be like very unique and like claim to have a new thing every other week, but they'd also like, I feel like they would agree with things a lot just to fit in. When it's like, you can just be yourself. You don't have to like everything the other does.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when they try and show interest in stuff and then just not really commit to it, because they claimed that they were a dancer before, like a few years ago. And then one time we obviously made plans to like learn dance together and call, and I could tell they weren't trying because I could hear them typing for over half of it.
Oh,
So they were definitely not dancing.
yeah.
I was the only one that actually learned it.
Mm. Well, dang, that's pretty sucky. And honestly, you should be a lot more harsh about this. But like, I'm glad you're being nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it for now. I'm gonna go see if Jason wants to call in a few minutes, but I'm gonna go hit up Comical now and see what, like.
All right.
Yep. All right, but thank you for giving your opinions about this, and I'll see you in a bit,
Yep.
hopefully. And
All
at,
right.
at 4 o'clock, I gotta leave, by the way, because my grandma wants
Yeah.
to teach me how to take me driving. So
All right.
yeah, I'll drive the car, by the way, because that's the whole point.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me know how it goes at comical.
Mm-hmm. All right, I will. Don't worry. I'll let you know. All right, see you guys.
All right. See ya.
I'll make a group chat once me and Jason are ready. How badly do you think Sage is faking the DID?
You mean how badly they're faking it? You mean like how much they actually believe it? Because they are like 100% certain they actually have it. Because
What?
because basically, what they've conditioned themselves to actually just full on believe it. Like there's not a single doubt in their minds. They know they're lying, but they've fully convinced themselves at this point.
That's just sad.
Yeah, because it just gets to a point where when you're this chronic of a liar that you actually just genuinely believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't really have another person just convince you otherwise until you've experienced enough people leaving you to not deal with your shit anymore to actually just like get over your pride. Pretty much,
Mm-hmm.
that's what's gonna happen with Sage eventually. Is that enough people are gonna realize it, or maybe not because this is such like a complicated issue. They're gonna have to experience a little more of that. What happened with Viral in order to actually understand it.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like enough people are actually doing that, because I heard like Hyro told me that a lot of people are sided with Sage when this like kind of thing happened.
Yeah, that's why it's so complicated, because a lot of people aren't gonna really either care. A lot of people aren't going to care because they don't know what DID is. They don't know that they're just straight up just faking like a serious mental illness, because they don't really know what it actually entails. So they could just, I mean, they could have this happen with more people, not just Hyrule, or they could literally just get away with this just forever, and they just think it's just okay.
Yeah, TikTok self-diagnosis type stuff.
Yeah.
So another random question, but like, did Sage like ever do anything bad to you or something?
To me, no. I literally never interacted with Sage other than the conversation we had in the group chat with like Connor and Tanushi and Hyrule and Sage, and but Sage was pretty much just kind of there in our server that you're in now. Sage is in that server, and they join calls occasionally, and we would like play stuff, and that would be pretty much it.
Oh, were they at least like chill during the call or something?
Yeah, they were just fine. I was never really that close or friends with them at all, but they were fun.
No Largo rage.
No larger rage.
That's at least good. What are the biggest like indicators that they're like faking the idea? I know they are, but like what are like the big like blunders they're making? Like,
Like previously mentioned, I mean, they're kind of supposed to at least, to some degree experience like amnesia and stuff. They don't experience at all, and they've shown that it just kind of doesn't apply to them, which is just very odd because it isn't how like the condition works.
yeah,
So I think that's really as far as it goes. Like that's really all you need to know, is that it's kind of just like a unique like a convenience for them that they just remember everything, but they can magically blame everything on just like another alter, even if it's something like screen sharing porn in a VC. Like okay, dude. So that's weird enough to me.
and they're just not going to take accountability for it. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's just so weird to just randomly do. And if it wasn't weird enough, and then you just like and then you just go and blame it on your very fake alter.
Yeah,
Like, okay, just that's like that's literally the definition of trying to escape responsibility.
exactly. Like you can't just blame on that on something like that. You really have to like, and they were mad at Hyrule for it too. That's funny.
Yeah, imagine getting mad at Hyrule for that. Like, dude, even if you did actually have the ID, it's still you that did that. Like it's not Hyrule's fault that he's uncomfortable with people randomly switching porn in VC. Like just apologize and move on.
Exactly. If it was like a Discord server full of like average people, like they would just bully Sage relentlessly for it, as they should.
Yeah, exactly. But because that was someone, Hyrule was someone Sage was closer, they could just get away with it.
Yeah.
It's not always going to work out like that.
And then I have another question. What is co-fronting again?
Oh, co-fronting is basically I just kind of read about this online while I was making like that short thing, like the clip at the beginning of the video while explaining it. I just kind of discovered it, but basically it's like where two or multiple alters are like fronting at the same time to like different degrees. I don't really know what that means, but I'm assuming they just have control over like different kind of like things. I don't think Sage ever really experienced that, but all I know is that pretty much Sage had like a bot to like type as whoever was fronting and stuff like that, so they could indicate who's fronting, whatever. But yeah, that's what that is.
Yeah, I'm assuming that like an alter can't just slip in during this time though, right? Because that's just like a weird thing.
Yeah,
to
no.
say.
Pretty sure authors don't just randomly slip in like that, especially not for just like a few like seconds or like minutes or something. Again, there's different triggers for this stuff to happen. And yeah, you can experience those triggers in a pretty short time span, but they don't just I don't know. I've never heard of them randomly slipping in to just do stuff like screen share board and just go away. Like, just a little too convenient to be true.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're definitely just telling themselves that some random alters lived in when they know damn well that it's them who did it. Like,
Yeah, and I mean, literally anybody can make the argument that this is like a really misunderstood mental illness, and that obviously, it's gonna be pretty unique, between person to person. But after like after just seeing how convenient it is for Sage and how they can just use that as an excuse to escape responsibility. And also the fact that every alter in their system, at least when we were talking to them, I don't know about now, if they've made new alters or whatever. Um, but all of your alters seem to just be like perfectly fine with each other. None of them are like damaging to the system or detrimental at all. They're all just like chill.
oh, is it usually like common in DID to like have alters like fight each other or something?
Yeah, I mean, some alters are not gonna really like each other. They're not. They're gonna have problems with the system, or they might just want to damage the system.
Hmm.
Um, I don't really know how uh, prevalent that is, or if it's like an uncommon thing. But I mean, Sage had like 16 alters at that time,
Yeah, and they
and
were
they were all just very just convenient. Again, it's just a convenience.
all named after fictional characters too.
Yeah, which is just very odd because like alters aren't really you. Like they have their own like names and personalities and things that they do,
Hmm.
and you can't just like, I don't know, the host. It's not like the host just like names them themselves or whatever.
Hmm.
It just it's connected in a very specific way that just makes it again look like a convenience. And I keep saying that, but it just there's no other way to just explain it like that.
Yeah, like that's just straight to the point. That's literally what it is exactly is. Like
Yeah.
the convenience. They're just using an excuse, and that's pretty much all it is. Oh, and I'm assuming that you can't like actually just like voluntarily like ask one of your alters like quote unquote take over, right? That's like not a thing.
No, no, absolutely not. Alters don't even like it's not even like a regular thing for them to communicate with each other. Like that's like a difficult task.
Hmm.
You can't just like alters don't just like just talk to each other and just have conversations all the time.
Hmm.
And it's not like their conversations are very like long either, because again that's such a difficult task for a system. Um, and not I mean not every alter is going to be conscious at the same time and know what's going on.
Hmm.
Again, I mean that's why the amnesia exists in the first place. I mean, clearly not every alter is going to be um, fronting or conscious at the same time and know what's going on.
Hmm.
So you can't. They're not like summons. Like you can't just like spawn them in. Like, that's not how that works.
Spawning them in is the funniest thing I've heard. You just, I mean, they're just spawning, especially how fast they're like making new alters too. Like new alter like every week, pretty much. They know everything about them already. It's kind of crazy too.
Yeah, it's just like this isn't like this isn't Build a Bear, dude. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Like this is a mental
Like you,
condition you
you
can't
can't just make
control.
them yourself. That's not what that is. You can't make them yourself.
Hmm. And like it's clear that they're making it themselves because they're naming it after like fictional characters. Like if it was real, they wouldn't be naming
Yeah.
it after it like that.
Mm.
Well, I think that's all I got today, but thank you for coming on. I really appreciate your insight in it because you have clearly have a very educated opinion because you did a lot of research on this kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
clearly did not because like me and Hyder were talking in another interview a few minutes ago, and like we were saying that Sage probably just like look at Google for like one or two like websites and then just decided, hey, I got DID. But you clearly did way more research than that. So thank you for
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
yep.